Now just to get into some really quick tips. So once you start getting used to Twitter and you're using it more, these are some really helpful little tidbits for moving forward. So as you know, when you tweet, you only have 140 characters to work with. If you're tweeting a lot of articles, you'll get the big URL there and it'll be ... because it gets cut off because it's too long. A really easy way to avoid that is to use a URL shortener. So this will just basically create a really teeny link that's like 5 or 6 characters long. And that way you have more space in your tweet for actual content as opposed to a big link. There's 2 that I like. So Bitly is very basic, it's free. It allows you to shorten the link and it'll also track how many clicks you get. So again, going back to measuring your efforts, if you see, oh my god, I tweeted about going to Sharkies and manuals and 7 people clicked on the link, oh that's great, so I'll tweet more content like that. Whereas if you got 0 clicks, maybe it was an issue with the time that you posted it, maybe it was early in the morning and nobody's up, or Friday afternoon and nobody cares. Or maybe it's that content isn't interesting to your audience. So again, you always think about what does my audience want to hear from me. And Owly is built into Hootsuite, which I'm going to talk about next. It's basically a social media management platform. It kind of organizes all your social networks. But they have their own URL shortener that goes with that. Excuse me. How many clicks, whereas the Hootsuite one you'll get a full suite of things, but you often have to pay for those reports, but some basic analytics are provided within that platform. To allow for easy retweets, keep your tweets around 120 characters or under. Sometimes if you have a really long tweet and somebody retweets it, it'll get cut off and there'll be like the dots. And so just to avoid that, if you can, keep your tweets around 120 characters or less. Otherwise, that's not a big deal. So Twitter is becoming more and more visual. So I think the more photos you can add, the better. They come up really nice in the Twitter feed and they stand out rather than just the text-based tweets. So you'll see there's a great example. You can still, if you're linking to an article, you can still include that link. But you'll also have the link for the photo as well. And you'll see here that they actually have their own branded URL shortener, which I believe you can purchase through Bitly as well. So this is probably the #1 mistake I see on Twitter, is your placement of the @ symbol. So just these are 2 sample tweets for you. So the first one, where I have @NL Arts Council is so helpful, versus the second one, thanks for the help at NL Arts Council. The difference is with the first one, if I were to tweet that, only people that follow both me and the NL Arts Council would see it in their feed. So if you tweet something like that, if I was saying the NL Arts Council is so helpful, I'm probably tweeting that because I want to promote them and say, oh, they've been great. But if I have the @ symbol as the very first character, then that's only going out to a limited number of people instead of everyone that's following me, which is probably what I intend. And this is a great way to get around it. So I took this morning. If you don't want to really restructure your tweet in order to get that to work so it goes out to everyone, you can just put a period or a 1 right in front of the @ mention. Period is great because it doesn't add or take away anything, it's just kind of there. As far as recommended tools, so Hootsuite I use a lot, especially if you're on multiple social networks, or if your Twitter is just kind of grown and it's really getting difficult to manage. Hootsuite is a great platform to use. You can get a free basic account. There's also a premium one for $10 a month. It allows you to kind of break up your Twitter into different streams so that you can actually log in, look at one dashboard, and you can see, okay, these are all my mentions, these are all the people using this hashtag, these are all my direct messages, and it's just all in one screen. You can also tweet to multiple networks. That being said, if you do use it, I wouldn't put the same thing in the same way on both Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you're altering what you put out for each network. If you put something on Facebook, you have a lot more space, it's a little bit different. And then if you try to send the exact same thing in the exact same way through Twitter, it's going to get cut off. Twitter users are going to have to click on the link to go to Facebook, and it's just a mess. So I wouldn't recommend it. That being said, someone asked me before the start of this, you can use the same content for both Facebook and Twitter, but again, just make sure you're tweaking it for the network. So if you're on Facebook, Facebook does use hashtags, but not quite as much as Twitter. So if you're tweeting something, you probably have more hashtags, you probably have less text, whereas if you're putting something on Facebook, you might want to add more of your own commentary, photos, that sort of thing. So you can use the same content, but make sure you're keeping the network that you're putting it on in mind and tweaking it to best perform on that network. The URL shortener, like I mentioned, that's really helpful. If you need help finding content, I use Feedly a lot. If you Google that, you'll find it. It basically, if you follow a number of blogs, it organizes them all into feeds. You can just log into one place and look at all the new articles for any blog that you want to follow. You can also search for content based on different topics, and it'll kind of put everything in one place for you. And like I said, Twitter is becoming more visual, and if you want to create your own simple graphics and you can't really use Photoshop or anything like that, PicMonkey is super easy. They also offer a free version. There's an upgraded one that has a bit more functionality, but there is a free one as well.